When we talk about loving your partner while loving yourself, we must begin with a difficult but liberating truth. Self-respect is not selfish, it is foundational. Many people enter relationships believing that love requires sacrifice, and it does. But sacrifice without self-respect turns into self-erasure. And self-erasure is not romantic, it is corrosive. There is a subtle difference between compromise and abandonment. Compromise says, I value us, so I will adjust. Abandonment says, I value us, so I will disappear. Over time, if you consistently silence your needs, ignore your discomfort, or tolerate what violates your values, you may preserve the relationship externally. But internally, you fragment. And fragmented love cannot remain secure. Psychologically, when you ignore your own boundaries to maintain harmony, resentment begins to accumulate. It may not surface immediately. It often appears slowly, as irritability, emotional withdrawal, passive aggression. You begin blaming your partner for dynamics you quietly participated in creating. This is the paradox. When you do not love yourself within the relationship, you eventually struggle to love your partner freely. Self-respect establishes clarity. It communicates both to yourself and to your partner. This is who I am. These are my values. These are my limits. Limits are not walls designed to push someone away. They are guidelines that protect emotional integrity. Without boundaries, love becomes anxious. You overextend, you overgive, you overaccommodate, and then you feel unseen, unappreciated, or taken for granted. But often, the other person was never informed of your internal discomfort. You hoped they would notice. You expected them to anticipate. Unspoken expectations are a breeding ground for disappointment. Loving yourself means articulating your needs, not with aggression, but with calm conviction. It means recognizing that your comfort, time, and emotional well-being matter as much as your partner's. There is something deeply stabilizing about being in a relationship where both individuals respect themselves. It eliminates the quiet fear that love must be earned through self-neglect. Philosophically, self-respect in love is an act of dignity. It acknowledges that intimacy is a meeting of two sovereign individuals. You are not dissolving into one identity. You are connecting while remaining distinct. When you shrink to maintain closeness, you create imbalance. The relationship may feel peaceful on the surface, but beneath it lies inequality. And inequality, even subtle, undermines intimacy. Intimacy thrives where authenticity is permitted. If you cannot say, this hurts me, or I need space, or this does not align with who I am, then the relationship may be stable, but it is not secure. Self-respect also protects attraction. It may sound counterintuitive, but we are often drawn to those who know themselves. Confidence rooted in self-awareness is compelling. When you abandon your identity to please, you diminish the very qualities that made you appealing in the first place. There is strength in someone who can love deeply without losing themselves. And loving yourself does not mean rigidity. It does not mean inflexibility or emotional distance. It means maintaining inner alignment. It means that your yes is genuine and your no is honest. Many people fear that asserting boundaries will push their partner away, but boundaries do not push away those who value you. They filter out dynamics that would eventually cause harm. If your partner respects your self-respect, the relationship deepens. If they resist it, that resistance reveals something important. Self-love within partnership also requires self-awareness. You must examine your patterns. Do you overfunction to feel needed? Do you tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict? Do you equate sacrifice with worthiness? Understanding these patterns prevents you from unconsciously repeating them. And here is something crucial. Loving yourself within a relationship is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. It is choosing to check in with your feelings, choosing to speak up when necessary, choosing not to betray your own values for temporary peace. Because peace built on self-suppression is fragile. At the same time, self-respect invites reciprocal respect. When you model healthy boundaries, you encourage your partner to do the same. The relationship becomes a space where both individuals are allowed to exist fully. And that fullness is what creates genuine connection. Ask yourself honestly, in this relationship, do I feel expanded or diminished? Am I expressing who I am or performing who I think I need to be? Loving your partner while loving yourself is not about balancing two opposing forces. It is about understanding that one strengthens the other. When you respect yourself, you teach others how to love you. And when you love yourself fully, you do not cling, you do not shrink, you do not disappear. You show up whole. Because the healthiest love is not built on self-sacrifice. It is built on self-respect, shared between two people who refuse to lose themselves in order to stay together. If self-respect is the foundation, then the architecture of a healthy relationship is built on interdependence, not codependence. This distinction is subtle, but it changes everything. Many of us were taught that deep love means becoming inseparable. We romanticize the idea of "you complete me," as if incompleteness were the prerequisite for intimacy. But when two people come together believing the other is responsible for their emotional stability, their happiness, their identity, the relationship becomes heavy. It carries the impossible burden of being everything. Interdependence is different. It is the understanding that I am whole on my own, and I choose to share my wholeness with you. In a codependent dynamic, closeness is fueled by fear of abandonment, fear of disapproval, fear of being alone. So we monitor, we accommodate, we merge, we confuse intensity with intimacy, but intensity is not the same as connection. True connection requires differentiation, the ability to remain yourself while standing close to another person. The psychotherapist Esther Perel often speaks about the tension between closeness and separateness. We want security, but we also want freedom. We want familiarity, but we also want mystery. And sustainable love lives in the space between those poles. Interdependence means I can rely on you, but I am not defined by you. I can lean on you, but I do not collapse without you. This is not emotional detachment, it is emotional maturity. When two individuals maintain their autonomy, something remarkable happens. Desire stays alive, respect deepens, conversations remain dynamic. There is space for curiosity because neither partner feels consumed. Codependence, on the other hand, often masquerades as devotion. One partner may say, "I can't live without you," believing it to be the ultimate declaration of love. But psychologically, this statement signals fragility. If your entire sense of stability rests on another human being, you will inevitably try to control them, subtly or overtly, because their independence feels threatening. Control is often fear disguised as care. Interdependence reduces the need for control because both partners trust their own internal foundation. If you know you are capable of standing alone, you can love without clinging. And clinging, however romantic it appears in movies, suffocates real intimacy. Think about attraction in its early stages. There is a sense of curiosity, a recognition that the other person has a life, interests, thoughts that exist beyond you. That separateness is intriguing. It creates energy. When relationships evolve into codependence, that separateness disappears. Everything becomes shared. Every decision is negotiated. Every feeling is processed together. Individual space shrinks. Ironically, when individuality shrinks, resentment grows. Interdependence protects individuality. It allows each partner to maintain friendships, passions, ambitions, and inner worlds. It says, "I support your growth, even when it does not directly involve me." This requires confidence, and confidence is rooted in self-love. If you do not feel secure within yourself, your partner's independence may feel like rejection. Their need for solitude may feel like abandonment. Their success may feel like competition. But when you love yourself, you interpret their independence differently. You see it as strength, not threat. Interdependence also fosters responsibility. In a codependent relationship, emotional regulation becomes outsourced. One partner is expected to soothe, fix, or stabilize the other. Over time, this creates imbalance. One becomes the caretaker, the other becomes dependent. In an interdependent partnership, both individuals take responsibility for their emotional landscape. You can ask for support, but you do not demand rescue. This shifts the dynamic profoundly. Instead of saying, "You must make me feel secure," you say, I am working on my insecurity, and I would appreciate your reassurance. Notice the difference. One is an obligation, the other is collaboration. Collaboration is sustainable. Obligation breeds exhaustion. There is also a philosophical dimension here. To love someone freely means to allow them to remain a separate being, not an extension of your ego, not a reflection of your worth, a distinct consciousness choosing to walk beside you. Choice is powerful, and choice only exists where autonomy is preserved. If your partner stays because they need you, the relationship rests on dependency. If they stay because they want you, the relationship rests on desire. Interdependence keeps desire alive because both people continue to choose each other, not out of fear, but out of intention. Ask yourself, in my relationship, do I feel free to grow? Do I encourage my partner's independence, or do I subtly resist it? When they step into their individuality, do I celebrate it or feel unsettled? Your answers reveal the dynamic. Loving your partner while loving yourself means recognizing that closeness and autonomy are not opposites. They are partners. One gives security, the other gives vitality. And when both are present, love becomes spacious instead of suffocating, because the strongest relationships are not built on two halves completing each other. They are built on two whole people standing side by side, connected but never consumed. If self-respect grounds us, if interdependence balances us, and if honest communication reveals us, then the final dimension of loving your partner while loving yourself is this. You must support their growth without abandoning your own. Love is not static. It is not a fixed agreement signed at the beginning and preserved unchanged. It is a living system, and living systems either evolve or decay. One of the quiet fears inside long-term relationships is this: what if one of us grows and the other does not? Growth introduces uncertainty. When your partner changes, develops new interests, pursues ambitions, or questions old beliefs, it can feel destabilizing. We fell in love with a particular version of them. Growth challenges our sense of predictability. But the alternative to growth is stagnation, and stagnation erodes attraction far more subtly than conflict ever could. To love someone while loving yourself means recognizing that both of you are dynamic beings. You are not here to freeze each other in time. You are here to witness and support each other's expansion. Support does not mean control. It does not mean shaping their evolution to fit your comfort. It means asking, who are you becoming? And being willing to meet that person with curiosity rather than resistance. The psychotherapist Esther Perel often speaks about the importance of maintaining a sense of mystery in long-term love. Mystery is not secrecy. It is the recognition that your partner remains a separate individual with an inner world that continues to unfold. When you encourage that unfolding, you preserve vitality in the relationship. But here is the crucial balance. Supporting their growth must not come at the cost of suppressing your own. Many people unconsciously pause their development to stabilize the partnership. They reduce ambition to avoid threatening their partner. They minimize talents, quiet aspirations, or shrink socially to maintain equilibrium. This is another form of self-betrayal. Love should not require you to become smaller. In fact, the most resilient relationships are those where both partners feel encouraged to expand. There is pride in each other's achievements. There is space for new identities. There is flexibility when roles shift. This requires emotional security. If your partner's growth triggers insecurity, the impulse may be to subtly undermine it, to criticize, to withdraw, to guilt. But those reactions stem from fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of no longer being needed. The solution is not to restrict their growth, it is to strengthen your own foundation. When you invest in your own development, intellectually, emotionally, professionally, you reduce the anxiety that comparison creates. You shift from competition to inspiration. Healthy love says, your evolution inspires mine. There is also a profound philosophical truth here. Attraction often depends on movement. We are drawn to vitality, passion, curiosity. When both individuals continue to grow, the relationship remains alive. Imagine a partnership where one person pursues new skills, expands their worldview, engages with the world passionately, while the other remains emotionally stagnant. Over time, a gap forms, not necessarily in love, but in energy. Shared growth does not mean identical growth. You may evolve in different directions. What matters is the mutual respect for each other's path. Supporting growth also means tolerating temporary distance. When someone pursues a goal intensely, they may have less time or energy for the relationship. Insecure love interprets that as rejection. Secure love interprets it as investment. The difference lies in trust. Trust that growth does not automatically equal abandonment. Trust that you can both expand without drifting apart. And if growth does reveal incompatibility, that too is information, not failure. Loving yourself means being honest about whether the paths you are walking still align. Many couples struggle because they cling to who they were rather than adapting to who they are becoming. They hold each other to outdated expectations. They resist change to preserve familiarity, but familiarity without vitality becomes routine, and routine without intention becomes disconnection. To love consciously is to revisit the relationship repeatedly, to ask, who are we now? Not who we were 5 years ago, not who we promised to be, but who we are today, and to answer that question with honesty. When both partners feel free to grow, something powerful emerges. Admiration. You witness your partner stepping into their potential. You respect their discipline, their courage, their evolution, and admiration fuels desire. At the same time, you remain committed to your own expansion. You refuse to reduce yourself to a supporting role in someone else's story. Because a thriving relationship is not built on one star and one spectator. It is built on two evolving individuals who continue choosing each other. Not because they are stuck, but because they are aligned. Ask yourself, in this relationship, am I expanding or contracting? Am I encouraging growth or resisting it? And where have I postponed my own evolution in the name of stability? If we respect ourselves and cultivate interdependence, the next essential step is learning how to communicate our needs without betraying who we are. Because love does not erode in dramatic explosions, it erodes in silence. Many people pride themselves on being low maintenance. They say, it's fine when it is not fine. They say it doesn't matter when it deeply matters. They convince themselves that keeping the peace is more important than telling the truth. And in the short term, it works. Conflict is avoided. Tension is minimized. The relationship appears stable, but internally, something begins to fracture. When you repeatedly silence your needs, you create a quiet narrative. My feelings are inconvenient. My discomfort is too much. My desires are excessive. And once that narrative settles in, resentment becomes inevitable. Resentment is rarely about one major event. It is the accumulation of unspoken truths. To love your partner while loving yourself means refusing to engage in self-betrayal. And self-betrayal often sounds like this: I'll deal with it. I don't want to make a big deal. It's not worth arguing about. The question is not whether every irritation deserves confrontation. The question is whether your silence is rooted in discernment or in fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being labeled difficult. Fear of conflict. Authentic intimacy requires risk. It requires the willingness to say, when this happens, I feel hurt, or I need more reassurance, or even, this dynamic doesn't work for me. Notice that this is not accusation, it is revelation. There is a profound difference between blaming and expressing. Blame says, you are the problem. Expression says, this is my experience. When communication shifts from accusation to ownership, defensiveness decreases and understanding increases. But to communicate in this way, you must first grant yourself permission to have needs. Many adults carry childhood conditioning into their relationships. Perhaps you learned that expressing needs led to disappointment. Perhaps you were praised for being self-sufficient. Perhaps you were taught that love meant endurance. These early lessons shape how we speak or do not speak in intimate partnerships. The psychotherapist Esther Perel often emphasizes that the quality of our relationships depends on the quality of our conversations. And the quality of our conversations depends on our capacity to tolerate discomfort. When you say what is true for you, there is always uncertainty. How will they respond? Will they understand? Will they withdraw? But avoiding the conversation does not eliminate the discomfort. It internalizes it. Self-love within a relationship means choosing temporary discomfort over long-term resentment. It means trusting that your voice deserves space in the partnership. There is also a deeper philosophical layer here. When you hide your needs to maintain harmony, you deprive your partner of the opportunity to know you fully. You present a curated version of yourself, agreeable, accommodating, undemanding, and then you wonder why you feel unseen. Intimacy is built on revelation, not performance. When you communicate honestly, you allow your partner to respond to the real you. That response may not always be perfect. It may require negotiation. It may reveal incompatibilities, but it is real, and reality is the only foundation that can sustain long-term love. At the same time, communicating without self-betrayal requires emotional regulation. It is not about unleashing every frustration impulsively. It is about pausing, reflecting, and articulating your needs with clarity rather than intensity. There is strength in calm expression. It signals confidence rather than desperation. For example, instead of saying, "You never make time for me," you might say, "I feel disconnected lately and I need more intentional time together." The first statement provokes defense. The second invites collaboration. Collaboration transforms conflict into growth, and growth is essential. Without it, relationships stagnate. Silence may preserve comfort, but it prevents evolution. Consider this. When you consistently withhold your needs, you are training your partner to misunderstand you. They operate based on incomplete information. Over time, the emotional distance grows, not because love disappeared, but because honesty did. Loving yourself means refusing to participate in that erosion. It also means listening when your partner expresses their needs. Communication is reciprocal. If you demand space for your truth but dismiss theirs, you recreate imbalance. Healthy communication is not about winning. It is about understanding. Ask yourself, where am I silent? What truth have I been postponing? And what am I afraid would happen if I spoke it? Often, the fear is larger than the reality. And here is something powerful. When you speak your truth respectfully and it is received with care, trust deepens. You learn that the relationship can withstand honesty, that you do not have to choose between authenticity and connection. This is what it means to love your partner while loving yourself. You refuse to disappear in order to belong, because belonging that requires self-silencing is not intimacy. It is compliance. Real love can tolerate truth. And the moment you begin expressing your needs without apology, you transform your relationship from a fragile agreement into a conscious partnership. Speak, not to control, not to criticize, but to reveal. Because your voice is not a threat to love. It is the bridge that keeps it alive. The courage to grow, together and individually, is what keeps love dynamic. Because loving your partner while loving yourself ultimately means this: you are not here to cage each other. You are here to witness each other become more. And the most powerful relationships are those where two people keep rising, side by side, never smaller than they were before.